Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Mother of the Demigods, in my opinion, almost all the chiefs of the demons are now unconquerable, for they are being protected by Brahmanas, whom the Supreme Lord always favors. Thus, the use of power against them now will not at all be a source of happiness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When a person is favored by Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, no one can defeat him. Even the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not interfere when one is protected by a Brahmana. It is said, Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. The Lord's first inclination is to give all benedictions to the cows and Brahmanas. Therefore, if Brahmanas favor someone, the Lord does not interfere, nor can anyone interfere with the happiness of such a person. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Nutmostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prayodhana Tesura Yutanata Aparaniya iti Devi me matihi Yatte nukul ishvara vipragupta Navikramas tatra sukam dadati. O Mother of the Demigods, in my opinion, almost all the chiefs of the demons are now unconquerable, for they are being protected by Brahmanas, whom the Supreme Lord always favors. Thus the use of power against them now will not at all be a source of happiness. So I request your blessings and mercy to be able to speak something worthwhile on Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the Supreme Lord speaking to Aditi, and she has performed the Payavrata process. Her husband, Kasyapa Muni, was not actually very happy with her because he thought that she should just tolerate and just wait for destiny to change things. But she couldn't. She couldn't wait. She had to engage in begging or engage in some process in order to benefit her sons. So she has a mother's love, and that cannot be denied. That she's very eager to benefit her own sons. She's feeling their absence. Actually, she had a sister called Diti. In fact, they were co-wives, along with another 11 of Daksha's daughters. They were given as wives by Daksha to Kashyapa Muni. And interestingly enough, Diti, one of her sister, Aditi's sister, and another of Kashyapa Muni's wives, she actually went through a similar process. She was afflicted by a mother's grief when her children, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, were killed. And although they were actually killed by Lord Vishnu, Krishna, or Varahadev or Nrsimhadev, she actually blamed Indra for this. Because Indra had appealed for help to the Supreme Lord, or to Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma had appealed for help in dealing with these demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So she blamed Indra. So she actually wanted to kill Indra. And so again, before she voiced her desire, she approached her husband. Actually, she served him very, very nicely. She served Kashyapa Muni very nicely, and he actually became beguiled by her service. And actually, this is a way, really, that a woman, a wife, controls her husband by her loving service. So he just becomes completely won over, heart and soul. And so this is what happened to Kashyapa Muni. He actually became under the control of Diti to some degree. And so he said to her, "What do you want? What can I do for you? What desires can I help you to fulfill?" So Diti then revealed that she blamed Indra, Lord Indra, for the death of her sons, and that she wanted a son who was actually able to kill Indra. So this is because she's the mother of these demons. Aditi, her sister, is actually the mother of Indra and the demigods. So the roles are reversed. But Kashyapa Muni was he was very upset. Oh no, what have I done? But he had to fulfill her desire. He had to help her. He was beholden unto her. So he recommended a similar process to the one that he's recommended to Aditi. It's the Pungsavana purificatory process. And it's very interesting actually, because it's explained. Just find that how she followed this process, this purificatory process, and let me just find my notes. Yes, it's in the third canto. And by following that purificatory process, she was actually a bit like Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, when he went to his mother, Suniti, because he'd been offended by his stepmother, Suruchi, he became so furious that he wanted to have a kingdom greater than his father or his grandfather. His grandfather is Lord Brahma, so that's asking a lot, because he's basically the controller of the whole universe. So he performed as a small boy, a 5-year-old boy, he performed his austerities on the advice of Narada Muni, who had also originally told him, don't worry about this, just be equipoised, go back home, you're only a 5-year-old boy, later on you can try to achieve your goals. But Dhruva Maharaj couldn't follow it. So again, Narada Muni, his spiritual master, told him that, actually gave him another process, which he felt happy with, he could do. So, but then when he went through that process, and then the Lord appeared to him, he no longer really was so interested anymore in the goals that he had to have a kingdom bigger than his father or grandfather. So the idea, Kashyapa Muni's idea, was that if my wife goes through this Pungsavana ceremony or purificatory process, then ultimately she'll be purified, and then maybe she won't want to have a son who's going to kill Indra. So she went through this process, this Pungsavana purificatory process. But Indra himself, Indra features in a lot of stories. So he's a great devotee, otherwise he couldn't have reached that point. But actually somehow or other, he teaches us a lot of lessons. So although he appears to be proud on many occasions, and that's one reason why he's in trouble here, actually he's allowing himself to be humiliated by engaging in all these mishaps that he goes through. So actually in one sense he's showing a lot of humility, because he's prepared to put himself in that position of being, and even we often deride Indra, but I think we should be careful about that. But so he was watching Diti because he actually knew what Diti's intention was and why she was performing this Pungsavana ceremony. Because he knew that actually he was in danger, so he wanted to preserve his life. So he started serving Diti very nicely. She's getting some more of her own medicine. He started serving her very nicely, and by serving her, he wanted to be close to her, so he could see if there was any fault in what she did. Then he could exploit that fault. So he watched her, but actually she performed it expertly. And there's a very interesting comment made by Srila Prabhupada in one purport in that section of these. Actually, is it the third canto? No, it's the sixth canto actually. And he says that actually a woman is in a very good position because they very innocently follow. So Diti was doing that. She was innocently following. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, as a young boy, was innocently following. Prahlad Maharaj, just as a baby, he heard. So he just innocently followed what he'd learned. So she innocently followed. So this is an example that we can follow. Try and innocently follow, or without guile, and this is a Brahminical qualification, to follow in a simple way the instructions of the spiritual master. So she followed very nicely, but at some point, after a period of time of performing this purificatory process, she actually did make a mistake. It was a very minor mistake, actually. All that she did was at some point one day she became tired, and she forgot to rinse her mouth out, wash her feet, and something else I don't remember. But very technical things, simple things that you wouldn't, But this gave this gave Indra the opportunity. And he used his, otherwise she was completely inviolable. She couldn't be harmed at all by Indra. But this gave him the opportunity. He used his mystic potency, and he had the power of anima siddhi. So he became very small, and he entered her womb, and with his vraja, his thunderbolt, he cut the fetus, the embryo, into 7 pieces. But it didn't die. They didn't die. They just, more jivatmas entered each of these 7 parts. So then he took his vraja, his thunderbolt again, and he cut each of those 7 into another 7 each. So there were 49. And they didn't die either. So it's explained that the reason for this is because actually, although she had performed she had made a mistake, she had actually got the mercy of the Lord. So she had that Shakti, her children couldn't be killed in her womb. So, like that. So then, they came out, the 49 Maruts, as they were called, and Indra came out of her womb. And she was a bit puzzled about how did this happen? I got 49 children. I don't think she was actually too disappointed, because she was happy to have 49 sons. But she was suspected that Indra was behind this again. So, suspecting this, she said to Indra, look, you tell me what's been going on here, and be truthful. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Shri Shri Gaura Krishna Ki Jai. So Indra had to explain to her how what he'd done, and basically he apologized, and she became very pleased with him. Whether it was because she'd got 49 sons instead of 1, but then she gave up her desire to kill Indra. And rather than those Maruts becoming demons, because she was mother of demons, Diti, Indra adopted them and accepted them as demigods. Like that. So through this process, she had also become purified. She no longer wanted a son to kill Indra. And so, in a similar way, Aditi here has performed a vrat, and she has the Supreme Lord before her. But what is he saying? Hey, he's saying actually, they're unconquerable. So if they're unconquerable, he says, not even I, or he says actually the Supreme Lord, but he says not even I can conquer them, or not even I will interfere, he says. Why? Because the demons are being protected by brahmanas. So I was thinking about this, that how is it that brahmanas, because it's explained earlier in this canto, it's been explained that Bali was actually endowed with spiritual power. How can demons be endowed with spiritual power? And how come Bali Maharaj is leading the demon race, and he's trying to conquer Indra, who's a demigod, a devotee, and kick him out of his own planet? So the first thing is that it's explained in the 15th chapter of this that he was the leader of the demons, the demon race, but he'd been brought back to life by Shukracharya, his spiritual master. And therefore he gave his heart not only to Shukracharya but the Brahmanas, the descendants of Bhrigu, and followed very nicely. So in actual fact, he was not behaving like a demon, because he was following the Brahminical culture. He was protected by the demons. He was following their... So although technically, theoretically, or in principle, he and his people were demons, but actually they weren't behaving as demons. They were actually behaving as devotees, because they were following Krishna's system of following the orders of the superiors, of their superiors, the Brahmanas. So even though, like we, for instance, may have come from demoniac backgrounds, but it's not that we have to remain demons, or even that anybody else has to remain demons. If we just follow the process, then actually we become devotees. So technically, Bali Maharaj may have been a demon. Now, another point that came out for me in thinking about it, was that actually it says here in this verse that the Lord says almost all the chiefs of the demons are now unconquerable. Not just Bali Maharaj, but all of them. Why was it? How was this? It's because they were all united in following Bali Maharaj, who was a good leader. He was doing the right thing. He was taking instruction from elevated brahmanas, and they were following him in a united fashion. So therefore they all became unconquerable. They were all following. So good leadership is essential. In actual fact, that's what the brahmanas are for actually giving leadership. The Kshatriyas are for implementing the advice given by the brahmanas. But because if they don't take the right advice, they could be doing the wrong thing. They may be very powerful, valorous, courageous, but if they're misdirecting that power, then it's all useless. So they have to actually be advised by those who are fully fixed on the right thing, which is obviously the devotional service of Lord Krishna, serving Krishna. Another interesting point that came up, well, how was it that Shukracharya was so powerful, although he later was found to be self-interested? So I was asking one devotee yesterday about some of these questions, and he helped me a lot actually in understanding these things. So if you actually follow, even though you may not be a devotee, if you follow the process that's been given by the Vedas, the system, then you will actually, just like Indra he had mystic potency, siddhis. He had this anima siddhi, like we heard about before. So, if we actually follow, then we may actually get mystic power, or even some kind of power. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we are actually an advanced soul, self-realized soul. So, Shukracharya had he was very powerful, because he was able to bring the demons back to life after they were killed. Bali Maharaj was killed, but he was brought back to life by Shukracharya. Incredible potency there. But still, he was self-interested when it came to the point of Vamanadev taking everything away. He didn't want to lose his position. Maybe it was a temporary aberration on the part of Shukracharya, but still. Another interesting point that came up for me was that I was reading in the 15th chapter of the 8th canto about Indrapuri, which is Indra's city. I think it's sometimes called Amaravati, is that right? But anyway, in that section it's called Indrapuri. So it is described what it was like there. An incredible place. But one thing that struck me was one verse that says, "No one who was sinful, envious, violent toward other living entities, cunning, falsely proud, lusty or greedy, could enter that city." The people who lived there were all devoid of these faults. So how come that Indra himself, he manifested pride when he disrespected his spiritual master? So how come he was living there? But the fact is that he had to leave. And Bali Maharaj and the demon race became the instrument for that to happen. So because Indra actually had some pride, which is the first quality of a demon, he had to leave his place. And Bali Maharaj was actually just the instrument for that. So that is a possible explanation for why Bali Maharaj was doing that. He was an instrument of destiny, so that Indra could actually receive his just reward, which is to become homeless, like that. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada refers to Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. The Lord's first inclination is to give all benedictions to the cows and brahmanas. So I've talked a little bit about the brahmanas, but what about the cows? So there's one nice pastime. There was a cow in Vrindavan, in Bahulavan actually, which is a very sacred place because Bahulavan contains Radhakund. So in Bahulavan, actually there's a cow called Bahula. That's why that particular forest is called Bahulavan, the forest of Bahula. So this cow, actually if you go to Bahulavan, there are two lakes, kunds, Sankarshan Kund and Krishna Kund. And next to Krishna Kund, there are some deities in a temple of a cow, the cow's calf, a brahmana, a tiger, and Krishna. Of course, Krishna must be there. So the pastime goes that once this cow, Bahula, was very peacefully grazing in the forest. Suddenly, a tiger came out of the forest and attacked her, desiring to eat her. And she appealed to the tiger and said, "Oh, tiger, no problem, you can eat me, but please, let me go to I have a very small calf. And I would just like to feed my calf once more before I die. So please let me do that and let me say goodbye to my owner and my calf, and then I'll come back and you can eat me." So actually this tiger must have had some good qualities because he agreed. He says, "Okay, you go back home, feed your calf, say goodbye, and then come back again. Then I'll eat you." So the cow went back home, and she explained the whole story to the calf and the brahmana owner. And they were really upset to hear about this story. And they said, "Oh, the cow," actually they both offered, "We'll take your place. You stay here, we'll go, and we'll be the food for the tiger." But Bahula wouldn't agree to that. No, definitely not. Again, a mother's love, because she's a mother. A cow's always a mother. So she felt a motherly love both towards the Brahmana and her calf. But in the end, they all three went. So all three, the Brahmana, the calf, and the cow, Bahula, went back to the place where the tiger was patiently waiting. The tiger was really happy at this turn of events. Instead of one meal, he now had three. So he was contemplating on which of the meals that lay before him he should take first. And as he was contemplating, Krishna arrived with his chakra in one hand. And Krishna said to the tiger, he says, "You will earn everlasting renown if you spare this cow, calf, and Brahmana. So please spare them." So the tiger, obviously influenced by Krishna, decided to agree. He preferred to have everlasting renown. And so he went back into the forest, and they were spared. So it's explained that Bahula, the cow, because of her truthfulness, she won over Krishna, who is actually the Lord of religious principles, and the topmost of religious principles is truthfulness. Krishna values truthfulness, and in this age of Kali, truthfulness protects us against this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So truthfulness. So by that truthfulness that all three of them actually displayed, the cow, the calf, and the Brahmana, all three of them displayed truthfulness. Krishna's heart was one, and Krishna therefore came to protect the cow. So that's just one little story of how Krishna, of course, he's always protecting cows in Vrindavan, but it just makes, in like researching for this class, I was reading. I've got lots of quotes here which I haven't used, but how important it is that we have to establish, because Prabhupada explains in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita how the Brahmana is the symbol of spiritual culture, spiritual education, sorry. So how important it is, spiritual education in the Brahmanas. So we have to become Brahmanas, and we have to create more Brahmanas. And especially, schools which teach young children, because young children so easily absorb, whereas for adults it's more difficult. So how important it is that we actually have to promote this Brahminical culture, because Krishna is always there, always favors the Brahmins. Of course, Vaishnava is superior to Brahman, but a Vaishnava is a Brahmana. And also how important cow protection is. How we must protect the cows, and not just, as an offshoot, but it's actually a fundamental principle of Krishna consciousness of protecting cows. And by protecting cows, people's hearts can be changed. And because cows are helpless in the hands of the humankind. So, and they provide the means for that Brahminical culture by providing milk and so many other products. So but if the Krishna consciousness movement can convince more people, so many more people, to have a care and love for cows, then actually that can transform society. Because that softens the heart, and then people will become merciful, compassionate, kind, not only to cows and all living beings, but also to other people. So that's just a few thoughts on this verse and purport. If there's any questions or comments, please speak up. Any corrections?